Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining the EA Global Summit 2021, the global annual event for the Sparx ecosystem, connecting the practitioners and the users. This is Nizdam from the organizing team, and I take immense pleasure in welcoming Gillian Adams, the Director of Sparx Services UK, and also representing Hippo Software, to be presenting on how to personalize, declutter, and focus with an enterprise architect. This will be a tutorial-style workshop that teaches tips and tricks to streamline the enterprise architect user interface to enhance ergonomics and increase productivity and efficiency. Just a few pointers before we start. All attendees will be on a mute. If you have any questions, please use the questions tab to key in your questions. And our team will be posting these questions in the Teams channel as well. And we have requested the speaker to join us post the session to have a one-to-one interaction with us. And we'll also try to address a few questions towards the end of the session. If you are finding any difficulty in joining the Teams channel, please do drop us a note in the chat window itself or reach us at marketing@eaglobalsummit.com to sort it out. Just to note that the Teams channel has this speaker and all the other users who are actively participating and contributing as well. So we invite you to join the Teams to continue the collaboration. With that said, I request Gillian to please start the presentation. Over to you, Gillian.
Thank you, Nisam. Can I just double check that you're able to see my EA on screen?
Yes, we are able to see EA and we can hear you loud and clear. Thanks.
Fantastic. Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be presenting at the Sparx EA Global Summit 2021. I'd like to thank Nisam at Sparx Prolaborate and his whole team for organising the event again this year. As a change to my usual presentations, I thought I would choose a very different topic this time round. So today I'm going to deliver a workshop on how to personalise, declutter and focus within Enterprise Architect. As I'm sure most of today's audience is aware, Enterprise Architect is a very flexible case tool with support for a wide range of different technologies, including UML for object-oriented analysis and design, SysML for systems engineering, BPMN for business process mapping, and Archimate for enterprise architecture models. On the flip side, this can make the user interface feel rather complex and technical for new users who can sometimes feel daunted or even overwhelmed by the sheer range of options and features on offer. This is where you can come to the rescue, and by applying my 12-point plan of attack that we'll explore together, you can help new users to customize EA and declutter their user interface, leaving them with a much more streamlined and focused environment. So during this workshop, we're going to see how to manage technologies, apply different visual styles, switch between workspace layouts, define our own ribbon sets, set up and use perspectives, use the context browser, create landing pages, define working sets, set up a template package, assign perspective and ribbon sets to security groups, define profiles and combine them into an MDG technology, and encourage the use of ProCloud Server and Prolaborate. One of the first and easiest things to do is to disable any technologies that are not being used or are simply not of interest. We can do this from the Specialise ribbon by clicking on the Manage Tech button. Here we'll see a list of all the technologies available for this EA user. We can click on any of the technologies on the left-hand side and see a logo and description of that technology on the right-hand side. So I usually recommend disabling older versions of technologies such as older versions of Archimate, BPMN, and also further down, older versions of SysML. This removes them from the new diagram dialog and from the toolbox, and it ensures that you don't inadvertently create an out-of-date diagram. You may wish to disable some of the other more specialised technologies and add-ins if they're simply irrelevant to this user. Now let's consider the look and feel of Enterprise Architect. So many users just accept the default look and feel and are perhaps blissfully unaware that this can be changed. So from the Start ribbon, we can click on the Visual Style button right in the middle. And this gives us a whole array of different options to choose from. I particularly like the Microsoft Office option for beginners, as it adds a find command to the right-hand side of the ribbon. So if you forget which ribbon contains the function you're looking for, you can search and reveal it super fast. So I can simply click into the find command, start to type Visual Style, and up pops that feature straight away. There's also a variety of themes and colours too. So with my bubbly personality, the colourful choice is ideal. But I know there's lots of moody developer types out there, and they may prefer dark grey instead. And just look at the dramatic difference that that makes. So it's well worth taking just a few minutes to discover a look and feel that best suits your own personality, especially if you plan to spend a lot of time within the EA environment. So I'm going to switch back to the colourful theme. If you're going to have lots of diagrams open at the same time, you may wish to deselect Use Caption Style. This reduces the size of the diagram name that appears in the tabs at the top of your diagrams. So if I apply that, you'll see the difference it makes, and now I can have many more diagrams open without running out of space. Of course, if you're a certain age, like myself, caption style might actually be quite helpful. You can also choose a background colour for your diagrams. To do this, go to the Start ribbon and click on the big Preferences button, and then click on Gradients and Background. And here you can change your paper colour to the default murky grey colour, or you might prefer a bright green background, or even vibrant pink. Personally, my preference is a clean white, as I think it works very well with company logos, and it doesn't detract from the content of the diagram. But you're free to choose, and as this is a personal preference, it won't affect or upset your colleagues. Again, don't just stick with the default window layout in EA with the browser window on the left-hand side and the properties and notes windows on the right. You can click on the header of any window and drag the window to have it floating, or you can click and drag and move your mouse into one of the tabs to dock the window to the right, to the bottom, to the left, to the top, wherever you prefer. You can even drag one window on top of another, moving your mouse into the central tab, and layer the windows one on top of the other, each appearing on its own tab. And if I dock my notes window on top again, all my windows are together. This leaves a lot more space for my diagrams, and it's especially helpful if you're working on a laptop or a small screen. You can even click on the little pin in the top right-hand corner of the window to auto-hide your windows, so they disappear off to the side, and then hover over them to access them or pin them back in place. And if there's windows that you're not using at all, you can click on the cross at the top to close the windows down. So how do we get our windows back? Well, we can go to the Start ribbon and click on the Design button. And here we get a list of all the EA windows, and we can simply click to open our browser back up again. Or alternatively, we can make use of workspace layouts. So from the Start ribbon, we can click on the big Workspaces button, and we can select any of the predefined window layouts that are built into EA. There's quite a few to choose from that are useful for different tasks within EA. So for example, I can click on the default workspace layout, and EA reconfigures all the windows to their original positions. I can even create my own workspace layout and locate the windows just how I would like them. So I could move my browser over here, for example, and then from the Start ribbon, I can go to the Workspaces menu and select Manage Workspaces. This allows me to then click on the Create New button and to store my own personal workspace layouts. You can see I've created one for presentations, one for traceability, and another with the pan and zoom window open. And these can all be easily accessed from the Workspaces button. They appear in the User Layouts list at the end, so I can easily switch to any of those user layouts. So I'll just switch back to the default layout and minimize my ribbon. There's also a very easy way to hide or reveal the toolbox for adding elements onto diagrams. You can use the little chevrons that appear at the top of the Start page, and that will show or hide the toolbox. So it's very easy if you're not using the toolbox to close it down. Just as you can customize workspace layouts, you can also customize your ribbons. I suspect the vast majority of us will use the features on the Start ribbon, the Design ribbon, and the Layout ribbon on a regular basis. But other ribbons are probably only for occasional use for specific and less common tasks. Imagine a business analyst who wants to use EA to create some BPMN diagrams, they really don't need all the features on the develop ribbon or on the simulate ribbon, for example. For them, we can hide entire ribbons that are simply not relevant, or we can hide specific panels on ribbons to simplify their user interface. From the Start ribbon, on the Workspaces menu, we can select Manage Ribbon Sets. We can then click the New button to create a named ribbon set, as I've done for my BA Declutter ribbon set. And then on the right-hand panel, we can deselect ribbons that we want to hide, or open up a ribbon and deselect specific panels on that ribbon. If I apply this ribbon set, you'll see immediately I have a much smaller set of ribbons available. And if I want to switch back to all of the ribbons again, I can do this from the Start ribbon by choosing Workspaces menu and choosing to show all ribbons. Another fantastic feature in newer versions of Enterprise Architect is perspectives. So some beginners are completely unaware of how this feature can be used to declutter their user interface. You can change your perspective from the top right of Enterprise Architect. Or you can change perspective when you're inside the New Diagram dialog. For example, an architect who's planning to create Archimate diagrams has to scroll down past all the UML technologies, past BPMN, past all the SysML technologies, and eventually they'll find the Archimate technology. So their interface is very cluttered. Instead, of course, we could search for a specific technology by starting to type it in next to the magnifying glass. That's one way to focus in on a specific technology. Or we can use perspectives. So from the perspective drop-down, we can come down to Enterprise Architecture and select the Archimate technology. And then we only see the Archimate diagram types. Now this will affect not just the New Diagram dialog, but also the toolboxes that are available. And it also focuses the model wizard onto the Archimate patterns. So if I open up the model wizard, you'll see that I'm immediately presented with a number of different Archimate viewpoints as patterns, and I can click at the bottom left to create those patterns. If I switch back to all perspectives, then I'll see all of the patterns that are available in EA, starting with the UML patterns up at the top here. It's also possible to create your own perspective to combine technologies that you use on a regular basis. So from the Start ribbon, I can click on the Perspectives button and then click on Personal Sets. If we then click the New button, we can name our own perspective. So for example, I've created a perspective called Hippo Technologies, and then clicked on the green plus button to add all the technologies that I regularly use. Just be aware that it's necessary to add basic UML2 technology before you add any of the specific UML diagrams like class diagrams and use diagrams. And you also need to add core extensions before you add any of the extended diagrams like data modeling or requirements. You can use the little hands here to move these technologies up and down and put them into an appropriate order. And if you want to get even more sophisticated, you can click on the restrict button. And this actually allows you to further refine the diagram types that are available in the new diagram dialog, as well as the element types and relationship types available in your toolbox. So this is a really simple way of encouraging your colleagues to focus on a limited set of diagrams or notation. So for example, in BPMN, I have deselected some of the BPMN diagrams that I don't use terribly often to remove them from my perspective. Once you've created a personal perspective, you can right-click on it and either move it to the model or copy it to the model. And this makes it available for other users that are working in the same EA database. So if you have people that are perhaps less confident in EA, you could create perspective sets for them and share those as model-based sets. And now I'll go back into the new diagram dialog, and from the perspectives list, I can go to my personal perspectives and select my Hippo Technologies. And you'll see that it now limits me or focuses me in on just my UML diagrams, Archimate, BPMN, but only some of the BPMN diagrams, and the various other technologies that I commonly use. So I now get a nice uncluttered list of technologies that are most relevant to me, which is really very useful. Most of us stick to the first tab on the browser, that's the Project tab. And this allows us to see all of our model content. So we can see all the packages, diagrams, and elements in the entire EA database. However, if you're working in a specific package or in a specific diagram, it can be helpful to focus on that content only. So if I open up a requirements diagram and then click on the Context tab, I actually now just see the diagrams and elements in my current package. I could also click on the Diagram tab, and then I'll see just the elements on the current diagram, even if some of these elements are located in different packages. So both of these tabs allow us to focus on information of immediate interest without being distracted by all the other content in our model. A landing page can offer a really professional entry point into your model and provide rapid navigation to key diagrams. This is great for managers or occasional EA users, as they don't need to interact with the browser window at all. So we can create a landing page diagram. It's just a normal diagram, often a UML package diagram, and it typically contains a project heading, which is created using the boundary element from the common page of the toolbox. We might also have company logos, and these can be added to our model as an image asset from the artifacts page of the toolbox. We might also have a description of our project as a text element, and then typically we will add hyperlinks and navigation cells to allow us to link to other diagrams. To demonstrate how this is done, I'm going to drag my requirements diagram from the browser across onto my landing page and choose to create a hyperlink. You'll see this is named with the package name followed by the diagram name. So if I want to simplify this, I can come down to the notes window and just delete the duplication. And now I have a nice simple hyperlink, which I can double click on to navigate off to my requirements diagram. And I've also used a little hyperlink in the top left-hand corner to navigate back to the landing page again. So my managers can jump about between the diagrams quite easily. If I want to group hyperlinks together, I could use a boundary box to do this. Give it an appropriate title, double click to open its properties, and perhaps make it rounded to look a bit nicer and a solid fill. And this now allows me to go to the layout ribbon and use the paint pot to give it some nice background colour. Another option is to drag the requirements diagram on, and instead of creating a hyperlink, to choose to create a navigation cell. Navigation cells are, I guess, modern, fancy-looking hyperlinks. There's lots of different icons to choose from, and a variety of different colours as well. So pick something that you feel represents the content of the diagram and click OK, and you get a nice rectangle with the diagram name at the top, a nice image below, and a little icon in the top right hand corner to represent the type of diagram. And this works just like a hyperlink. So I can double click to navigate down to my requirements diagram and use my hyperlink to come back up. In later versions of EA, you'll spot a little eye on the top left-hand corner as well, and you can click on that to preview the content of your diagram without even having to navigate. So now we need to tell EA that this is our default diagram, our landing page. To do this, in the latest version of EA, go to the Start ribbon, and from the Workspaces menu, come all the way down to Model Places and choose Manage Set Current as default. Now EA will automatically open up this diagram whenever we open this EA database. If you're regularly working on a number of related diagrams, you can use working sets to open them all in one go. So from the Start ribbon, we can go to the Perspectives menu and choose Manage Working Sets. And this opens up the focus window for us. Here we can right-click and create a working set from the open diagrams. I can give this an appropriate name, and I can even add other diagrams or a matrix profile or a search into my working set. So I'm just going to illustrate this by adding a search for orphans, which I can find under Diagram Searches, Find Orphans, and click OK. And let me close down a couple of my diagrams and then illustrate how this can work. So from the working set, I can right-click and open the working set. It automatically opens up all my diagrams, as well as opening up the search window ready to search for orphans. I can also right-click on the working set and ask EA to apply this when the model opens. It turns my working set green, and all of these diagrams will now automatically open when I open up EA. So it works similar to the landing page feature, but opens a number of diagrams all at the same time. A template package can also be very helpful. This is a quick and simple way to have EA automatically set a default color, default properties, and add custom properties whenever you create a new element. So if I switch back to my requirements diagram, you can see that these requirements that were created using the toolbox are colored in green by default. They have got the status set to proposed by default with the yellow bar down the side. And if I go to the tags tab, there are no custom properties added to these requirements. So to create a template, I first of all create a new template package in my browser and a template diagram. Now these can be located anywhere in the browser at all, even in a separate root node. So now I'm going to add a requirement element onto my template. And first of all, I'm going to change the default color. So I go to the layout ribbon and use the paint pot to change the default color of my requirement. I can then go to the properties window and set any default properties I wish. So I'm going to change the status to approved by default. And now I'm going to click on the tags tab where I can add custom properties. First of all, I'm going to click to open up the tagged value types window. And this is where I can define my custom properties. You'll see I've already created one for the owner of the requirement. The detail box is blank, and that gives me free format text. I've got a review date where I've predefined this to be of type date to get a little calendar to appear. And I've set up a review status with predefined values, passed, failed, and not yet reviewed. the default has been set to not yet reviewed. So now I can add those tags to my template requirement. I just click to add each of them in turn. I'm going to save the template diagram and close it down. And now I need to tell EA where the template diagram is located. This is done from the Configure ribbon. I can go to the Settings menu and select Project Template Package. I can navigate to find my template package and then click OK. And now coming back into the requirements diagram, I can use the toolbox to create new requirements. And you'll see when I do so, I am getting the default color that I selected. The status has been set to approved by default, and all of the custom properties have been added into my requirement, giving me the option to choose an appropriate value. You can imagine how time saving that is, in that I don't need to go around each individual requirement and add all of those tagged values individually. A fairly new feature in Enterprise Architect is the ability to assign perspective sets and ribbon sets to security groups. So if you're working in a central database, you can turn on security and you can assign users to groups. So from the Configure ribbon, I'm going to jump over into the Groups dialog and show you that we have already set up a group for our architects and another group for our business analysts. And as you can see, Hippo is a user in the business analyst group. So now from the Start ribbon, I'm going to click on the Perspectives button, and this time go to the Group Restrictions tab. And here you can see that we're able to assign a perspective set to each of our groups. So our architects have a perspective. We've allowed them to have access to all of the UML diagrams. And in the enterprise architecture area, we have allowed them to create the Archimate diagrams. And for our BA perspective, we've used one of our model-based sets. We've assigned them to use the Hippo Technologies perspective that I set up earlier in this workshop. Just be aware that your perspective has to be saved as a model-based set to be available at this stage. We've also restricted the ribbon set for our BAs and turned off some of the ribbons. So now let's log in as Hippo. And see what the impact is. You can see immediately that I have a smaller set of ribbons available. And if I go into the new diagram dialog, I've only got the Hippo technologies as a perspective. So I'm narrowing down and decluttering the interface for my business analysts. And this is a super quick way and a very easy way to focus a set of users on a limited subset of diagrams. And notice again on BPMN, it's only the 2 diagrams that I've permitted that are available. So this can help you to focus people on specific diagrams and also potentially on specific notation within those diagrams as well. And hence you can enforce your own meta model or encourage standards and guidelines. So it would be remiss of me at this stage not to mention the possibility of creating your own profiles to define custom diagrams, custom toolboxes, elements, and tagged values. All of those can then be combined into an MDG technology for rollout to EA models. However, this is quite a complex topic in its own right, and one that's been covered by other presenters at the EA Global Summit this year. So if you'd like to learn more about this subject, I would encourage you to attend Phil's presentation, MDG's The Next Steps, which is happening tomorrow, or Ajinisa's presentation on the basics of MDG on Friday. Hippo Software also run a one-day public training workshop teaching you how to create your own MDG technology. So if you're interested, you can find more details about this on our website. My final suggestion may sound a little controversial, and that's don't use EA at all. Instead, managers, business stakeholders, and anyone untrained in how to use EA can access all the EA diagrams and elements using a browser. This can be achieved by installing ProCloud Server and Prolaborate. I'll give you a very quick demo of Prolaborate. So within Prolaborate, you have a clean and simple interface to allow you to view all the EA diagrams within your model. You can click into the diagrams, select any of the elements on the diagram, and you're given a clean list of all the properties associated with that element. So you can see all the information, and depending on how you set up Prolaborate's access control, you can either allow your users to have a read-only view of the properties or to be able to edit the properties using Prolaborate. And with Prolaborate, you can also define nice graphical dashboards to entice your audience to interact and analyze the data that's held in your EA model. All of these charts are dynamically created and driven by the properties in your EA elements. So if anything changes in your model, the charts reflect this instantly. For example, I've got a nested pie chart here where I can focus in on different categories of applications, look at specific applications and reveal their interfaces. And I can jump in and out of that data looking at different aspects of the model. I've also created a little bubble chart, again driven by the data in my EA model. This charts the customer value against the impact of my applications, and the bubble size is based on the cost of the application. All of this is driven by the properties and tagged values in EA. And finally, I've got a little application roadmap, again, driven by the dates that are held against these applications in EA. So I can see very clearly at a glance when applications are ready for maintenance or when they need to be replaced. If Prolaborate is of interest, stick around to hear Madhav's presentation on Prolaborate version 4 later today. I am super keen to attend that one. So that's the end of today's workshop, and hopefully it's given you some good ideas for ways in which you can personalize, declutter and focus inside Enterprise Architect. Once again, I'm Director at Sparx Services UK, also known as Hippo Software, and we offer a wide range of EA training courses, workshops and consulting services. We have also public EA training webinars, and a good number of those are scheduled for September and October this year. So feel free to get in touch if we can be of any help. And I'd now like to hand back to Nisam, where I'm happy to answer any questions, or of course I can join you in Microsoft Teams and be available to answer your questions there as well.
Thank you very much, Gideon. That was a fantastic session. I would suggest we need to publish this video and say 12 must-do things before starting with EA. It's so useful, and as you rightly said, if people could start with these steps, that will make their experience much more different. They will feel EA to be more friendly and relevant, relatively usable. So this is a fantastic session. We have a few questions, and we also, I think we can take 1 or 2 questions while we are still on the session, and then the other questions will be posted in the Teams channel, and we invite attendees to please join us in the Teams to ask any questions or clarifications with Gideon. So while we are here, if you may just see if you can answer this, which is a question from Matthias, which says, can templates be applied to already existing elements of a model as just to make sure we don't have to add tags manually after that?
Yes, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, the template mechanism only works for newly created elements. So you have to really set up your template first, and then the tagged values are automatically added to any new elements thereafter. So if you have existing elements that need tagged values added to them, I would recommend writing a very simple script. You can run scripts within EA that will run around all your elements, test what type of element it is, and then create the appropriate tagged values on the relevant elements. And again, just as a little plug, we have an EA scripting workshop that teaches you how to do that. But if you've got knowledge of VB script or a language like that, it's fairly straightforward to do.
Thanks, Gideon. If I may add just a point that you already mentioned in response to this, you mentioned about MDGs and stereotypes. That could be the next, kind of standardization if they want to really go back and retrospectively update the tag values. Am I right?
Yes, you could certainly set up a profile with your own custom element types and associate tagged values with those. And then by setting the stereotype on your elements, you would pick up those properties, those additional properties. So that might be another way to go. Of course, setting up an MDG technology and profiles is a little bit more technical. So the mechanism that I demonstrated today is just a very simple one to kind of get you started. But if you're keen to customize elements and add your own properties, then it's definitely worth investigating setting up an MDG technology, and there's a couple of presentations on that very topic tomorrow and on Friday at this summit.
Thank you very much, Katie. And there's been a number of people thanking you for the excellent presentation. I think like this was extremely clear. We have Heather, Scott, Lawrence, Premjit, everyone thanking you for a wonderful presentation. Just for everyone's information, this video will be made available in our community page and the YouTube channel in a couple of days after the summit, and we'll send you an email with the link to it. This has been a really useful session, and we thank you once again, Gillian, for such a wonderful presentation. And thanks everyone for joining us in this session. Please do continue your discussion in the Teams channel, and we expect Gillian to be there for a couple of at least a few minutes to answer our questions.
Thank you, Nizam. And I'll switch over to MS Teams now.